Welcome to the Arsenal Show. We are live. Arsenal season is over. The race is over, but the marathon has only just begun. Arsenal lose 3-0 to Brighton, which basically hands Manchester City the title. It was disappointing. It was slightly legless. It was kind of empty, and it kind of fizzled out with a wet fart in the end. Actually, it was massively disappointing. But not to take away anything from the season, the great season we've had, but we have to be able to be critical when needed. We have to point out the issues where needed. So, what better way to start than with two big Arsenal fans, Steve, Kate, and Jerome Marks. How you doing, boys?
Good evening, Kieran. Good everybody out there. Hope everybody's well.
There we go. You good, Jerome?
Yeah, fine. All fine, thanks.
All right. First and foremost, we're going to discuss the game against Brighton at home, which we ended up losing 3-0. Steve, what were your thoughts on Sunday afternoon after that 3-0 loss to Brighton?
After the 3-0 loss, after it, probably like most Arsenal supporters, a little bit, a little bit shocked, a little bit disappointed, a little bit confused, if you like, what I just watched. It was an awful, taking away, the meaning of what it meant, that the reason why we had to win that game. I think it was probably the worst performance I've seen since that last season at Newcastle. I think it was very similar to that, which is a little bit worrying going forward. I think the game was just, I don't know. We let them play football. I think when we went out, at the beginning of the game, I had a funny feeling before the kickoff that something weren't right. Not before the kickoff, say like 5-10 minutes in the game, didn't feel right. There was something that was off. The way sort of we were sitting back, the way sort of Brighton was taking the game to us very early on. The fact we was just letting them have the ball and let them come at us. It felt weird. It felt like I was watching. We're used to Arsenal. We've come to being used to them having a DNA. We talk about teams having a DNA. In the past few seasons, we've never known what that is. What our what the DNA, what is how a team plays. But over this season and last season, we've come to sort of get an identity back. With the way we play, but that wasn't there the weekend. That was felt like it was another team, and I think the Everton game against Man City, I just felt that they come out and they just think we're just not going to come back from it. That's how it felt. It felt like they when they walked out the tunnel, they should have all been carrying a white flag and just waving it, as if to say, we'll play this game against Brighton, but we know we're never going to win the title. And they played like it. They played like they was just, even if they won that game, they wasn't going to win it. There was a couple of injuries. Players didn't play well. Just a little bit at the end, just feel empty in the end. That's that. On the obviously there's a lot of other feelings afterwards the game on what we should do and why we, in the end was like that. But, we're just talking about the game. That was basically the way my feelings after it was.
Jerome, Steve mentions how it was almost as if Arsenal waved the white flag. Did at any points in the game it feel like they were in the ascendancy? They were sort of taking the game by the scruff of the neck, or did it kind of just maybe start off that way and then to die out?
Yeah, I think there's so many sort of contributing factors, I think, to that performance.
Mm-hmm.
I think that due to that game as well, the Everton Man City game beforehand, I just think if you ask every Arsenal fan deep down, do you think there's a chance you're going to still win the league? I think really 99% would say no. I think that there wasn't any real genuine belief.
No, it was hope. It was more hope.
Yeah, it was hope, but I think in terms of the game itself, we just never looked in control. I thought in the first half anyway, the only chance we had of scoring was them sort of mucking about a bit at the back and us nicking the ball and maybe scoring sort of from there rather than having control of the game and creating like good chances with free-flowing football.
Mm-hmm.
I just think, we didn't look ourselves at all. I think the Martinelli injury didn't help us because having him against Caicedo, who's not obviously a specialist right back, I think he could have had some joy out of him, even though Caicedo, to me, he's different class. Unbelievable player. But I think he could have had a bit of joy, and that hurt us a bit. Second half was just one-way traffic, and even their goalkeeper, who's not their first choice, he was like taking the mickey. The way he was playing, the way he was encouraging us to close him down. And
he's not even a goalkeeper that plays with his feet like that either. He's not like one of the elite footballing goalkeepers. And you could tell by some of them passes, they were a bit off as well.
Yeah. Do you remember the programme Sunderland Till I Die? I think he was he played for Sunderland during...
Jason Still.
I
think he's at Man United when he was younger or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, because I actually rate their first choice goalie, Brighton. I think his name's Sanchez.
Yeah.
So you'd fancy, when a second choice goalie plays, you think, right, we'll test the keeper. And we didn't really have a chance to. It was... Yeah, it didn't look like Arsenal. It wasn't the Arsenal that we've seen this season.
What do you think were the other contributing factors that you were saying earlier?
I think the fact that we had a few different changes to the team, not having Zinchenko and Saliba is massive for us. I think Jorginho and Xhaka in midfield, they haven't played a lot together. I think the Martinelli injury, I think Saka is just knackered. I think our players are just exhausted. Ben White hasn't been playing well for quite a few weeks, hasn't been himself. I think the players have just run themselves into the ground, and there wasn't that enthusiasm before a game that there normally is. Mm-hmm. And I think, we're just up. We've been up against such a colossal machine in City that once they won that game earlier on, it was like, well, we got no. It's over basically. And I think what it's like in the Premier League. If you're off 1 or 2%, it makes a massive difference. And also, Brighton are brilliant. Brighton are such a good team. If you've watched them recently, they're very unlucky in the cup game against United at Wembley. I thought they played them off the park there. They didn't lose the ball. They just there was a stat in the first half that came up on my screen. It might have been after 30 minutes. They had over double the amount of passes that we had. Like, no teams do that to us. It wasn't like there was a little difference, and it was, the last 5 minutes, this has been the possession. It was like after 30 minutes, they absolutely dominated us possession-wise, and we're not used to that. We don't, it's very, even when Man City came to Arsenal, they didn't do that to us. That's probably the most impressed I've been with the team playing against us, apart from City.
Steve, there was a lot of onus from fans put on the Everton game. Why do you think that is? Do you think that Everton was a realistic trouble for Man City?
Yeah, I watched the Everton game, and up until they scored, I thought Everton were the better team. So if they would have got a goal during that time, who knows what could have happened? But they got the goal, and Man City then went on to win the game 3-0. They just did what Man City did. But I even think I'm disappointed with the way they played, because I still think there could have been a chance that we could have got on and won it if we would have beat Brighton. There still would have been, there would still been some hope.
But it's that exactly. You've just said it there. Still would have been a chance and hope.
Yeah,
hope and chance.
You should be able to give that. You should be able to at least do
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Okay. Hope and chance, but like it's Man City in front of you, so it's like
Yeah,
a hope
but-
and a chance. It's hope.
Yeah,
Like,
but
even
they-
saying it there, it's
Yeah.
hope.
They went
It's
out. They
hope.
seemed to go out with a whimper, though, mate. That's what I think.
That's what I'm saying.
That's the disappointing thing, is
Yeah.
when I obviously, even if Everton would have got a draw, or even if they even would have got a win, you still
We
would
lose
have.
3-0.
You still would have. It even would have beat Brighton. You'd still say, but at least it makes you a little bit proud of your team that you're keeping Man City honest, and they know that
Yeah.
they've got to go out to the next game and they've got to win, beat Chelsea. Because as you said, like, mate, this is the Premier League. If you're not that absolute, up to 100% or 99% on it every single week, anybody can beat you.
Yeah.
And no matter what you say, Man City have had difficult games to come. They did, and they have still got a very difficult schedule. And you don't know, their minds might have been on. I mean, you look at their last 3 games. I mean, I know it's about hope and stuff, but you look at their last 3 games. They weren't good against Leeds. They wasn't good against Fulham, and up until like the whole of the first half, they wasn't good against Everton. So a lot of teams were talking about. A lot of people I've seen like, oh, this was coming. This result against Brighton, against Arsenal was coming. Well, can we say the same thing about Man City? There's one round the corner because they wasn't good against Fulham. I'm not saying that they would. Man City are a machine. They're a different team than Arsenal. They're stronger. They're more. The experience in the end did come in. But it was the disappointment of them going out, with a whimper because they could have slipped up, but there was no sign of any fight at all against Brighton. It was like watching. It was really like watching a different team. That wasn't Arsenal. There was something up before kickoff. I don't know what, but it looks like they just give up before the kickoff. And it certainly, when they scored the first goal, it was like, nah, that's it now. They didn't, and players just didn't perform. I know Jerome, was right when he said that, we missed Zinchenko, we missed Saliba, but there was some terrible performances out there. That, Ben White, what was that with him? What was he doing? It was his worst.
I think Ben White just got roasted in that game. Mitoma was just
ripped. Saka was awful. Is he knackered? Probably is. Martinelli wasn't really good up to it. Trossard was terrible for the whole game. It was absolutely disastrous. This is against his old team. And it was like, it's always like, I don't know what it was like. It was weird. It was strange. It was like, I just think that they just it was just like someone pressed the button, and when you got a balloon and you it's full, and then you all of a sudden you just let it go and let it out, and it go, and that's what it felt like. That's what it seemed like. It did. It seemed like you got the balloon that's full, and then you just let all the air out, and they just went, just flopped to the ground. But yeah.
It was massively disappointing, and I think, as you said it, you want to see the team go out with a fight. Do you think we go on to win the remaining games of the season? We finish off well. What's your thoughts on that, Jerome?
I think the Forest game is very hard because they're proper fighting for their lives. So, in terms of like going into the game being a hungry team, they'll probably be a bit more hungry than us, I think. I think the Wolves game is one of those typical end of the season games at the Emirates when we probably beat them 5-0. Like, everyone's just playing very freely, just enjoying themselves. But the Forest game, I think, is a bit tricky because of the circumstances of where Forest are. So yeah, not sure.
And with regards to the pressure, there was a lot of talk about Arsenal not being able to handle the pressure. It could be pointed out with the West Ham game, Liverpool game, Southampton game. People were pointing out, and then potentially you could pinpoint the Newcastle game, which there was not as much pressure on after the losses. And then as soon as there's pressure back on again, Arsenal kind of buckle against Brighton. Do you think that's an argument there?
Yeah, definitely. You've got to take it into account. I think we all saw when Zinchenko came off against Liverpool after they equalised, and he had his head in his hands. He knew it wasn't just that result. He knew it wasn't just that goal that he had his head in his hands for. He knew that was significant.
And this is where I was quite surprised with Gary Neville about him saying that the over celebration with Zinchenko kind of pinpoints a couple of reasons he feels why Arsenal they need it. It shows they haven't quite got the required leaders to take them over the line. I think he should have pointed out that Liverpool game, because for me, it was quite damning for a player of his stature and where he's been to come off the ground, to come off the pitch and have his head in his hands. And that was on camera everywhere. That was everywhere. I wouldn't have pointed out the celebration because, again, those celebrations are part of the reason why the Emirates is the reason why it's like now. Like that togetherness that the players have, the Saliba scoring an own goal and Arsenal fans cheering to hype him up again. That's part of that. That's the connection that we've built in the Emirates with the players. I don't see that as the problem. I personally see traits like that in Zinchenko that are a bit of an issue. Head in the hands where it looks like he's down and out. Now, you've got to be setting an example for the players around you. Hands in, it's not over. I know that the Liverpool win would have been significant, but it says so much when you're sitting there with your hands and your head in your hands like that after we've conceded an equaliser at Anfield. It's a frustrating time. Very, very, very frustrating time. Steve, how do you see us finishing off the season well?
I hope so. I don't know how they're feeling. Mikel Arteta's got to get him up.
He does, doesn't
he? He needs to get him back for these 2 games. And you talk about pressure, and the pressure's off now, isn't it? So really they can go to Forest, they can play against Wolves, and Arsenal finished second. We're in the Champions League, whatever way you want to look at it. But Mikel Arteta will be telling them that probably in not very sort of nice words that you've got to go out there against Forest and Wolves and absolutely smash them, because that just wasn't good enough against Brighton. You owe the fans. Well, most of them anyway, because there's obviously a few again that's come out the woodwork and talking absolute nonsense. But I dare say that's just to be expected. But they've got to, they've got to show some pride now. I mean, Forest, Jerome's right. They're fighting for their lives, but so what? Man for man, the quality of what Arsenal got and the quality, they shouldn't have to worry about what Forest are doing. All season, they've gone through. We keep talking about tests and pressure, and for the whole season, these players have passed those tests and pressure. So is this another one against Forest coming up? Is it another test? To show. I'm not too sure about the pressure bit, because I feel we've had enough tests. I feel we've been under pressure enough times this season in games, and I think our teams, more than shown us, or should have shown us that they're more than capable of coming up against the unexpected, you know, going to Newcastle and winning there, going to Spurs and
but there was no pressure.
But there was pressure. There was pressure against Liverpool, wasn't there? You know, to go 2-0 up. There was.
Yeah, but then we came back and they came back and drew 2-2.
Yeah, we're just not. I think we've been fine right up until, you know, the last bit. Well, I just think we just haven't been strong enough. You know, I'm not. I don't like looking forward to next season, and you think, right, well, what can we change? What can we do differently? There's nothing. If we would have won the title this year, I don't think I'd be saying anything different. That we need that done. We need this done. We need to do this. We need to do that. We need to score less goals. We need this. So we could have won the title and had that conversation. So, okay, we've fallen at the final hurdle. You know, we're taking it to the last 3 games, you know, of the season. So we've got to look at that and think there can't be much wrong to go through a whole Premier League season and take an absolute juggernaut of a football side, an unreal football side, right to nearly the wire. There's not much wrong there. And I think especially on certain fan channels, they're trying to dissect it, and they're trying to dissect too much. You know, they're saying, "Oh, Ben White had a go. Do we need a right back?" He's had a few bad games, for God's sake. Yeah, Keywell had a bad game against Brighton. Oh, he's been praised the last 3 games. It's too much. There's too much dissecting, you know, of this now with this, what we're going to do, what we're going to do. I don't think nothing's changed since if we would have won the title, I still think we've got to do exactly the same things. No different.
Yeah. I think differently. I look back at the Liverpool game. I still stand by it. It's Anfield. That can happen when you're in your best form. It can happen at any time. It's Anfield. But the West Ham games, we were absolutely dominating for the first half hour. Let off, they scored. And then for me, that's panic stations. They've scored again. We've got to score a crucial penalty. We missed that. We can't get back in the game. And I see the same with Southampton. Get off, bad start. Now we've got to claw back the game. It's just, and this isn't digging the players out. This is just what I see.
Is that down to an experience, though, Kears?
I believe
there was inexperience, but in those games, there was 2 silly mistakes, wasn't there? There was the Ramsdale throwing the ball out to the Southampton player, and there was the penalty against West Ham, which was ridiculous. He just took him out, and so it's 2 moments. You know, if those 2 moments never happened, what would we be saying?
I don't think it's just 2 moments, because in the West Ham game, after we conceded the second goal, we still had plenty of time to be able to score another. And we couldn't get into the game. We couldn't take the game by the scruff of the neck again. I do believe it's experience, because in those moments there, if we win the league, and we go out and the game against West Ham happens again, we go 2-0 up. They're not letting that team off. They're going through and finishing that game off. I believe it's experience, I believe it's pressure, and I believe that every single year you've seen us get over that hurdle. Same time last year, we started to dip off again, partly down to the fact we've got a very small squad. And then it gets to the crunch time, and we drop points against Southampton. We drop points against Everton again, I think it was. And then the pressure's alleviated. We come and bring back points against Manchester United and Chelsea. And then the other game was Tottenham, where we lost as well. And I see the same here, except for this time, it wasn't we lost. It was a minor blip, and then we pull ourselves back into it. But I do feel like at key points, and when the pressure's really been on, I just don't think we've had the words bottle it. I don't know. This is where I think the word bottle it, comes from other fans wanting to dig us out, wanting to banter us. Because if any of their clubs were in the position that we were in this season and had the season that we're having, there is no way they'd be talking about bottling it. There is no way they'd be using the words bottling it. It's not. It's not. We would have had to have a near perfect season this season. Man City will win the rest of their games. They will. And they'll get 95 points, I think it is, they get if they win the rest of their games. That's ridiculous. You're telling me that Arsenal bottled it on the season that Man City are going to get 95 points? Like, come on. It's not bottling it. It's not bottling. We just don't have enough. We don't have enough in the squad. Our squad is not up to the level of Manchester City's, and that's no mean thing. That's not anything to be embarrassed about or to be ashamed of.
No,
like Man City for the last 15 years have spent some of the top monies, and yes, the net spend they do very well. But if you're talking about money they've laid out on players, one season they were able to buy two £50 million right backs. Not a left back and a right back, two £50 million right backs when they bought Kyle Walker and Danilo. So people talking about, but Mikel Arteta's coming and spent 500 million, £500 million. But what did we have? Our squad was like nothing. We had to get rid of players. We've had to let players go that were on big wages and we could have got some money for. But no one wants them because they're on big wages. I just think, again, we have another summer where we bring in the right players, and we're doing this again. People that want to talk about this is our best season. Why? Why is this our best season to win it? Man City is still going to be here next season. Man City still got 90 plus points. So why is this our best season? If Man City fall off a cliff and end up getting 80 to 75 points, then that's our best season. Not the season that Man City is still raking in points. Not the season where we've got a record goal-scoring striker that's having a go this season. No. One of the best seasons Kevin De Bruyne's had, stats-wise. Don't talk to me about Arsenal bottled it against a Man City team of this level. Like, get out of it. Absolute nonsense. Absolute garbage people are talking. What seems to be happening is, though, so it looks like there's going to be a big exodus this summer. Starting with this man. Fabrizio Romano has released information saying that Granit Xhaka is set to leave Arsenal at the end of the season. No negotiations over a new deal and plans to part ways in June. Bayer Leverkusen are in advanced talks to sign for 15 million fee. Understood personal terms are almost agreed over a 4-year deal. We'll start with you, Steve. Granit Xhaka set to leave the summer could only mean one thing, is that Arsenal are going to do some serious business come the transfer window, surely.
Yeah, Rice is done, innit? It's like a blind man to see that. You don't announce this. And obviously, there's been rumblings over the last couple of days about talks with Declan Rice. Rice is done. But that, to me, that's got nothing to do with Declan Rice. Sorry, it's got nothing to do with Granit Xhaka. It's a shock because he's had 2 years left on his contract, and so you would have thought he'd be there. Well, he's got 1 year plus the Arsenal have got an option to keep him for another one. So it's just obvious that there's been like a mutual agreement, made along the line where whether it was at the beginning of the season or 2 seasons ago when Xhaka decided that he would stay at Arsenal, and they had an agreement with Mikel Arteta to say he'd let you go if you want to. And this ain't Arteta letting him go. This is Granit Xhaka wanting to go, because I'll be absolutely dumbfounded if this is something. If Arteta ain't begged him to stay, because it's going to be a loss. It's going to be a big loss. yeah, it's Granit Xhaka's made a decision he wants to leave. So, and like I've said many a time, Arteta won't stand in the way of any player that wants to leave. If Kieran Tierney wants to leave, he'll say go. Granit Xhaka's probably said it's time for me to go. I want to go and play in Germany, whether it's for family reasons, whether he wants to try something different. It's a big surprise because we're in the Champions League next year. You would have thought we'd want to play in the Champions League. And make no mistake, that's a massive loss. You know, because a massive loss because there's not many players like him about, and because the idea you want to build a squad. So if it is Arteta's decision or something like that on them lines, he said, look, you know, we're not going to renew you. We don't want to keep you for another year after you. We're not going to do your option. Then I just can't believe it that Arteta would think that. If he does, then I don't know Mikel Arteta very well. If that's what he's done, but it'd be sad to see him go. Let's hope that they give him a good send off. You know, in the last game of the season, because over the last 2 years he's deserved it. That's about it really.
Jerome. Granit Xhaka leaving, surely it paves the way for a clear out of players and something that Mikel Arteta has probably thought long and hard about. But if they're looking at getting rid of Granit Xhaka, surely they're bringing in some big players in the summer.
Oh, you'd like to think so, wouldn't you? I mean,
better be.
Yeah, I mean, he has been, whatever your views on Xhaka are, he has been a mainstay of that midfield. We don't really get to see an Arsenal team without him. So I don't know what he's going to do in terms of replacing him, because he's been such a mainstay of that midfield. And when you look at the other midfielders we've got, Jorginho, how many years has he got at Arsenal? El Nene as well, Partey. I think if Xhaka's leaving, I think they need to sign at least two players.
Three, I think.
Yeah, maybe even. But for me, the midfield, the more the merrier, because I think it's such an important part of the team. But because at the moment, there's question mark. For some reason, there's all these question marks over Partey as well. But people forget how amazing he was for 75% of the season. Like, we would not be in the position we are. You can say it about a lot of players, but especially Partey in that midfield. Like, we just wouldn't be.
I do think there's a lot of recency bias in there. Partey, Zinchenko, like they've had a bad patch recently, but it was not long ago that Zinchenko's picked up 3 Player of the Month awards this season. Partey's been outstanding in midfield when he's been consistent this season, and he was and outstanding. The partnership with him and Granit Xhaka was untouchable for about 15 games. Like, it's madness that we seem to forget when there's been a bit of bad form, which every player has. The better you are, the less games you have.
I'm trying to get into Arteta's head though. What he's fit. I mean, look. Let's try and get into his head. Let's try and get into Mikel Arteta's head. What he's thinking, because he could have made Xhaka stay. Yeah, he could make him stay for another 2 years. So he's obviously said, if Xhaka said, I want to go, obviously Arteta's gone, fine. Go.
We can't look past the fact that Xhaka's been offered a 4-year deal at the age of 30.
It's still not his say-so, right? It's still not his say-so. He still hasn't got if Arsenal wanted to keep him until 2025, then he's got no say in the matter, right? So although I've just mentioned that Arteta won't stand in his way, right? He's not going to let him go unless he's got someone coming in. That's if he has, this ain't wrong with Arteta. He needs his head banging up against the wall. But we know Arteta, we know our manager. That's not the way. That's why I'm absolutely positive that this Rice thing is a lot more further ahead than what I even know. Yeah. There's reports today that Fabrizio saying they're going to talk to Declan West Ham soon. Absolute nonsense, right? nonsense. I don't care who he is. Absolute nonsense. I know that they've already spoken to West Ham about Declan Rice, but 2 days ago, even before this Xhaka come up. So I really might have even looked at it, but I never even thought for 1 minute Xhaka was going to be going. But now when I look back now after what I've been told, now and I'm sort of putting 2 and 2 together and I'm looking in hindsight, I'm thinking, now this is making sense. But if you're looking from Arteta's point of view, you know, Declan Rice ideally is a 6. He's not an 8. He may well be, you know, in the end, be an 8 because he wants to play as an 8. But he's not an 8 now. He's not. He's not. He's a 6 for England. He's a 6 for West Ham. Sometimes he goes forward, but he's definitely a bit raw in that 8 position. Right?
Yeah, Casado's an 8.
So Caicedo's got to come in. He has to come in. If he plays Declan Rice, we don't know if that's going to work. So Caicedo's got to be coming as well. I mean, he done enough hugging and kissing Arsenal players the weekend.
Yeah,
you know,
I thought that was a bit. I don't want to do an Arsenal on Twitter kind of.
Yeah,
he was giving him. He helped, but Caicedo was so apologetic about Martinelli. I've never seen a player that apologetic because it was a bad foul. Yeah, but he didn't go out to hurt him. It weren't like he went to get the ball and it was the referee. Oh my God. Oh my word!
Oh my God! Worst referee.
My word! How did I forget that referee?
The worst referee I've ever seen.
He needs to go and join his brother in a scrap heap because he was a joke. He was an absolute joke. Terrible ref.
So should we be looking at Partey then? Should we be like Jerome says? I mean, you both praise Partey, and we should praise Partey. You just said this season he's been amazing, but he plays in Partey's position. And Rice ain't coming to. Rice ain't coming to sit on no bench.
Yeah, I don't think.
And he ain't played him recently, is he?
Well, the Partey
last 3 games.
The Partey Rice debate is it don't matter. I don't really like whoever plays as long as they play well.
But it's Rice coming to sit on the bench.
It's the who's coming to take over from Granit Xhaka. What's your thoughts, Jerome?
I'll tell you what I think. What this season has shown us is, I don't think we can have, like, in our mind, our first choice 11 and then the rest, because what you'll do is you'll run the first 11 into the ground and you'll be stuck in a position that we are now. I think we've shown Partey can't play 30 league games a season. He can't.
So that's not good, is it?
But it's okay if in your mind you're happy to sort of share the minutes around. I think.
But they're not. He's not. Is he going to come to shit? Is Rice or Caicedo going to come to like play bit parts every now and then?
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. Again, I think Rice. I don't want to see him play 38 league games. I think it's too much for people with the Champions League. You're not going to be able to do it. Impossible. I think that, like Man City have shown us, the game these days has moved on from that. You need to have not first choice players and then some squad players. If you've got squad players, you're not going to compete with the big boys. Impossible. You need to have, like, if possible, 2 starters for each position, and they're not going to play the equal amount of games, but there's enough football to go around, especially at a high level with the Champions League. Saka, if we sign someone to share the minutes with Saka, if they're not at the level required, then when Saka can't play, we're going to have a drop. We're going to dip. You need to have someone as close to him as possible, and. If Saka doesn't play every first team game, it's not the end of the world. Not for him and not for us.
Yeah, I agree.
Can I ask you both something? It's just come to me just now, right? And just tell me what you think. I don't know. Do you think Trossard was brought in as just as a short-term fix?
No,
because he was. You don't.
No.
Because I keep hearing about Moussa Diaby coming.
But Trossard is a very versatile player.
Diaby's a winger who's a prolific goal scorer.
Yeah, Diaby's still got a way to go. He's good. He's very good, but he's still got a way to go. Like he don't come into Arsenal's team and take out Martinelli. Like no way. I don't see it. I think he's a very good player. He's still got a lot to learn, but he don't come into this Arsenal team and push anyone out straight away.
So do you think Trossard's a good enough replacement for Martinelli to go forward in Champions League, win multiple cups next season?
I don't see a problem with Trossard as a squad player at all. I think he's shown.
So you can
since
play him,
January.
you'd be happy to play him in the Champions League game?
I can't see why not. This is a
no, it's just a question.
International player. I don't. Trossard was not great the other day, but he's been outstanding since he's coming in January. I can only see him. He's 28. Give it a couple of years, I think he'd be a better player as well. I think he'd be wiser. I think he'd have attributes that he didn't have and would never have got while staying in either the Belgian league or in Brighton. Playing in the Champions League will benefit him as a player, will make him better. Will make all of our players better. Saka, Martinelli, even down to players like Emil Smith-Rowe. God forbid we sell him. But yeah, I'd definitely be keeping Trossard. I wouldn't cross my mind selling him. Jerome?
No, I don't mean sell him. I didn't mean sell him at all.
Well, short term.
Yeah.
I think at the moment he's the best option if like to rotate with Jesus as a striker. I like the way we played with him. I think he gets very much involved. And on the left at the moment, I love Smith-Rowe. We just haven't seen him this season, so he's probably the best to interchange with Martinelli at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. I also wanted to make a point of we'll have to see how he progresses next season. That's what I was going to bring up. Mikel Arteta made a point earlier on in the season saying that if players like Martinelli and Saka want to play at the highest level, they've got to be able to play 50 games. But I can understand you saying those things because mentally you don't want them to sort of put down tools. But if you seriously think that you're going to get the best Saka playing him for 50 games a season at the highest level, then you're mental. Because Pep doesn't do that. Pep don't do it for Kevin De Bruyne. Pep don't do it for Grealish, who's been outstanding. Pep don't do it for Mahrez, who was one of their players of the season last year. Pep don't do it for no one. He rotates as soon as a player. If Real Madrid have got if Man City have got Real Madrid on Tuesday, Kevin De Bruyne can have a rest on Saturday, and you can be playing a decent team. And that's the level we need to be at. They're the levels we need to be at. Okay, maybe not Man City, but we can do the job that Chelsea did years ago, where it was all about winning against the teams you should be winning against and not losing against the other mob. We pretty much did that this season. Take away the 2 games against Man City. We go there and you draw those. And the games against Everton should be winning. Southampton should be winning. West Ham should be winning. That's near enough the league. So that's what we've got to be looking to. Making sure that, one, we can get in some players who will be able to rotate and there's not going to be too much of a drop-off. And 2, start winning the games that we should be winning and not losing to those other teams. Do you worry about people like Emil Smith-Rowe, Jerome?
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. I think you have to, don't you? I think you have to. He's been like available for selection for ages now, and he just hasn't played at all. And when he has played, it's been like, the game. There's nothing really riding on the game. We're going to have to raise some money, aren't we? If we seriously want to sign, I mean, to coin a phrase from you, Steve, if we sign Caicedo and Rice, I will definitely be getting the old Volavons out.
Volavons.
Yeah.
I stepped in the DeLorean and woke up in the 1980s. Volavons.
I'll be popping the champagne, mate.
That's what we
the
said.
Bucks Fizz on the Harvey Wallbangers, mate.
when we were talking
Jeez.
about party signing, we discussed the Volavons coming
The
out.
Volavons. We'll get the Volavons out because Rice and Casado are signing. Yeah, good signing.
Yeah,
think-
Rice, Casado, and Odegaard. That wouldn't be a bad midfield, would it?
That'd be, yeah, that's a
that would
minded.
compete with that would match City's
yeah, absolutely.
all day long.
Yeah. Yeah, Smith Rowe. Well, yeah, definitely.
Steve, do you worry about Smith Rose?
I do a bit because I don't just. But I think it's more that I just don't want him to leave because I know what he's capable of. But we can't keep selling these players because we haven't. For one, we haven't got no. Our squad is quite weak as it is, and not a big squad as it is, especially quality wise. So when you don't want to sell your young quality. You don't want to sell Kieran Tierney. You don't want to sell Emil Smith Rowe. If you want to compete with Manchester City's, okay, if they're not starters, right? But you need to keep these players at the club. He needs to sort them out somehow how to play minutes. Mikel Arteta has to find somehow during the season to get these players on the football pitch. So he keeps them happy and he keeps them at the club, like Pep Guardiola does. Foden, they're happy to sit on the bench. Silva will sit on the bench. De Bruyne will sit on the bench every now and then. All these players are happy to sit on the bench because they know they get game time.
Because they're going to win. They know they're going to win something.
But Arteta's got, we can be in that position now. He's got to say to them, look, you got to stay here because we're on the cusp of something here. We're going to finish second this year. We came close, lost it by 3 games, But next year, we're going to get so-and-so in. I'm going to give you game time. These players have to stay. You can't sell your Tierney's. All right, Xhaka's off. Xhaka, Tierney, you might be worrying about. Emil Smith Rowe, you're worried about. You can't sell these players. You got to buy them players as well. You got to go and get another. If you sell them, you got to go and buy more of them. Yeah. What we need to do is add to what we got now. To strengthen what we got now, not take away and then having to go and buy somewhere else and bring them in and also bring in your starter players as well. We don't want to start with our squad players are there already. Mm-hmm. Smith Rowe's there. Tierney's there. Tommy Ashew's, is there. Kiwa, I think, he's decent. We just need, we've got to buy other squad players because we've got to buy midfield. We've got to buy 2 midfield that probably end up sitting on the bench. We've got to play a right-sided player, a winger, or that's going to have to somehow sit on the bench. We're going to have to buy a Tierney if he leaves, and a Emil Smith Rowe if he leaves as well. We're not going to be buying 5, 6 players. I mean, I know what Jerome says, and he says we got to get cash, but surely Kroenke's got to give him the cash. The idea isn't for him to look here, Mikel. There's some cash to go and buy some players to replace Smith Rowe and Tierney and Xhaka. What's that? That's ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, don't go and buy, Diaby or a Rice or an Edwin Soba or a Casado. Go and buy a few squad players. It's ridiculous. You've got to keep them.
Jerome, with the likes of potentially Balogun, Nelson, Xhaka, KT, Holding, are Arsenal in danger of doing too much on the outs and struggle to get the quality that's going to replace those players? There'll be a lot of signings in the summer.
Oh, Edu will be busy.
Yeah, very busy.
The thing is, we got so many players out on loan as well. We got Tavares on loan as well. Forgotten about him.
He's fallen out with Marseille.
Is he?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, he's got to go down. We ain't going to bring him back, surely.
Another one, Lokonga. He's out on loan. Yeah. What's going to happen with him? We got a lot of lot of players out on loan that probably all those players out on loan. This is just a personal opinion. I don't think any of them are part of Arteta's plans.
Mm-hmm. No.
Really, so you've got to be thinking that he's probably going to get rid of a lot of them.
Yeah.
That should raise some money. So
I don't think money's the issue. I don't think. I think we're going to have to raise some money, but I don't think that's the issue. The issue for me is: are we going to get the personnel in? Like, there's squad players that are on the cusp of first team, and there's players that are first team. Xhaka's one of the first team players. Emil Smith-Rowe was a first team player last season, one of our top goal scorers last season. He had a bad injury. He's now come back from that and hasn't got much game time. To me, it feels like there's a lot of speculation involved in where he's going to go, as opposed to they've actually heard that he's going to go, because he's gone through a bad injury where he's missed most of the season. To then bring him in is going to be difficult already.
Kieran, can I ask you something about Smith Rowe? Why do you think he hasn't really played him?
I think because match sharpness. This is a player who was injured really up until the Man United game, and then after the Man United game had to have surgery and wasn't back until about a month ago, just a bit over a month ago. So to then bring him back in, it's you now competing with Vieira, you're competing with Xhaka, you're competing with maybe even Trossard to play in that number 8 position, or number 10, Martinelli on the left, Odegaard. So you've got to get past all of them first. I do feel like it's more of that's played into it, as opposed to Mikel Arteta doesn't rate him anymore, which I don't think is the case. Personally, which I don't think is the case.
I mean, if Arsenal are going to get rid of players, because sentiment's got to go out the window. Do you know what I mean? You can't have sentiment at a club when you're going for titles or you're playing in Champions League. You can't keep people there for the sake of it.
Mm-hmm.
And if we are looking at selling a few, obviously Jerome's already mentioned the loan ones there. There's not one of them players who I would want back. Not one. And I think Jerome's absolutely right. I don't think they're in his plans, and I think them gone. But the players there, thinking about like who could be sold to raise money, I would personally, not that I want these people to go, but as I said, sometimes you've got to throw sentiment out the window. You'd be looking at Rob Holding.
Yeah, Rob Holding's another one.
Yeah, I would be looking at, with a heavy heart, Eddie Nketiah, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd look at Fabio Vieira, because I don't know if he's the replacement who can come in and do what Odegaard does, because I know that was the plan when we bought him, but at the moment that's not looking likely. I mean, I think we all would agree with that, and we all know that when fit, Emil Smith-Rowe can play that role. Because
I think it's too early to sell a player you've just bought for £30 million. I don't know what you're going to get back from him the following season after he's had a bit of a.
I don't want him to go, and I don't want him to go, Kears. I don't want him to go. Right, I want him to stay, and I want to see what he can do next year. But if you're talking about throwing sentiment out the window and getting money in, if we do need money to get a Diaby and a Rice and a Casado and maybe a Guy or a Tapsoba or someone on these lines, then they're the sort of first few players that come to mind. And Reece Nelson maybe as well.
Yeah, Nelson will go, unless Arsenal sign an extension on his contract. Nelson will go on a free. Yeah. Holding, I think you can get some money for. Xhaka, obviously, you'll get money for. KT, I think you'll get money for. Balogun, potentially, you'll get money for.
Would you rather keep
Tavares
than the
Nketiah? It's one of those. It's like, is Balogun going to come in? If Nketiah goes, Balogun may come in. I'd be happy to be the understudy for Gabriel Jesus, but I don't know. After the season, he's had a lot of murmuring about. I don't know whether he's going to want to come back and sit on the bench.
I think
whether a loan is an option. I think he's got to be careful.
I think he's got to be careful. He can go and play for a smaller club. No big top 6 club's going to buy him. I want to thought, and then he goes somewhere else signs somewhere else, and all of a sudden his career goes downhill, I would have thought, Arsenal in the Champions League next season, come and sit on the bench. Come on in playing some big games in the Premier League, get a taste of the Champions League, see what it's all about. These things don't come around every 5 minutes, mate. I hope people are sort of guiding him in the right direction, because people, if I was his agent or he's a member of his family, I'd be saying, look, you're young, pal. You've been in the French league, but the French league's not the Premier League. Next year you can be part of a Champions League side, playing in some of the biggest stadiums in the world, and playing in the Premier League and getting some of the massive grounds in the world. So, you've got a learning curve still. You still got a lot to learn. And I think he'd be mad to leave. Absolutely crazy. I think he could be making a massive mistake.
Who would have thought that Eddie Nketiah would have got the game time that he would have got this season, or even last season, towards the end as well? So, I think if Eddie does go, Balogun would be crazy to leave. The Fabio Vieira thing, for me, it's not sentiment; it's business. And what my point is, how much do you get back on a £30 million player the season after? For me, it's worth holding on to him, because I think if you sell a player the season after you bought him for £30 million, realistically, what you're going to get for him, 15. He wasn't a regular starter in the Portuguese league. So right now he's had a season in the Premier League and people are still wondering whether he's the player. So for me, that's not a player that you sell this season. We've got a very small squad. A very, very small squad. Jerome, who would you be selling? Who would you be looking to raise funds off?
God, well, everyone that's on loan. Other than that, there's not too many.
No, we've not got a massive squad.
You sell Balogun as well, Jerome? Balogun as well?
Yeah, I'd sell Balogun, because I think he's had such a good season that his stock is so high that it's never been higher than it is now. I think you got to take advantage of it. I think. Also, I'm sure he's done very well in France. I reckon nearly half of his goals have been penalties. Like, he's still got to score them, but
9, I think.
He scored a lot of penalties. Yeah, I don't think Tierney suits the way Arteta wants to play, unfortunately. And I think if you can get 35 million for him, well, I think you got to do it.
But then you got to go and buy another left back, haven't you?
Yeah, I know. Unless he feels that he can get away with having Tomiyasu as cover for Zinchenko.
No,
as well, because he done no, you don't like that.
No, I want Tomiyasu to play as a right back. I want Arsenal, ideally, to bring in another right back, maybe a young one, and have Ben White as an option for that centre back as well. So that if there is an injury or we need to rotate, Ben White can go into centre back. I like Ben White as centre back last season. I think he's done outstanding as a right back this season. But there are games where they don't suit him. There are games where it doesn't matter how well he will play. He's not going to beat anyone for pace, or not anyone. I word that differently. He's not going to beat a certain player for pace. He's not going to take on a certain player. And I would like to see an attacking fullback in games as well. I think I would.
Yeah. I mean, it's awkward, isn't it, for Arteta? Because ideally, you would want someone like Tomiyasu playing right back, and someone of the ilk of Ben White as your backup centre back.
Yeah.
But obviously, that's again, we keep saying, but Ben White can't be a squad player. But is that not what
Ben
we
White
want?
come from Brighton and Leeds and Shrewsbury. Yes, he can be a squad player.
Exactly.
He definitely can be a squad player. We can't be over egging it with certain players. Like,
exactly.
Jesus can't be a squad player for me. So when you say we need a 20-goal season striker, then you're selling Jesus, because you can't bring in Jesus on a promise, say he's going to be the
Yeah.
main man. The season after,
Yeah.
where he's had a 3-4 month injury, you then cut him off and say, yeah, he's your £20 million striker. You don't, a 20 goal a season strike. He's not a squad player. Ben White can be a squad player. Gabriel could be a squad player. Like, there's players, if you upgrade it and players, and we're winning, no one can argue. Tommy Asu wasn't arguing this season when Ben White had taken his spot because we were winning. Like, Kieran Tierney couldn't say anything this season because we were winning. Certain players couldn't do anything because the players in front of them were brilliant this season and we were winning. Like, if we're winning, it don't matter who's playing. So, yeah. All right.
It's awkward, isn't it? Because we need to step up to another level, don't we? Now
we do.
Don't you think?
But making the hard decisions, like allowing Xhaka to go, like letting go of Holding, although I love him. KT, which is going to burn a hole in my chest. All three of those is going to hurt, but they can all be upgraded. Even Xhaka. They could be upgraded.
I wonder if there's an ulterior motive when you think of the price of what Xhaka's going for is ridiculous, isn't it? €15 million is
only
the
$3
price.
million on top of what we turned down a few years ago for Roma, 2 years ago.
And he's
Roma.
having the best season of his life, and he's not an old man, is he? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
So
I do think it's that 4-year contract.
So
we're not offering a 30-year-old a 4-year contract.
or is there a little bit of an ulterior motive going in there because of Mr. Diaby coming the other way?
Maybe. It'd be silly of Edu not to have that conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
It would be silly of him not to have that conversation. But as a 30-year-old, he's got 2 prime years in the Premier League, or he's got 4 years in the Bundesliga. And I think when you take into account 4-year deal at 30, wife wants to move. Germany is your home. Yes, England, you love it, but Germany, that's where you've grown up. Like,
yeah.
There's too many things playing in his favour there. Too many.
If you think of Arsenal's midfield, Jack has gone. We know that. I mean, Arsenal's midfield at the moment is Partey and Jorginho, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
They're both touching. Well, Jorginho's 31, is he? And I think Partey will be 30 at the start of the season.
Yeah,
you can't have them. We know we're not going to have them, right?
No, not long term. No, but
so
30.
What you got to do is buy. If there's players available now who are in their 20s, 24 who are absolutely top banana, you need to get them now, and that's Caicedo and Rice, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah,
so you need to buy them now. Get them now. Get them signed up.
And there's a lot of talk. There's a lot of talk that's dotted around about Mount as well. But hopefully, the Mount talk is because they want Liverpool to move in for Mount and steer them away from Declan Rice. But we shall see. We shall see. Make sure you're following the Transfer Exchange Show and Steve to keep up for the latest transfer news. That's all we have time for today. Thank you very much for everyone who's joined us. Thank you very much for joining us today, Steve.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
And thank you very much for joining us today, Jerome.
Cheers. Thanks a lot.
If you are new to the show, press that like and subscribe button. If you are a regular, press that like, press that share button, press the copy button. That's all you have to do. Get us up on that main page. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Join us every Tuesday for the Arsenal show, 8 o'clock. Peace out. Stay safe. Oh, forgot. Can't find the button. Can't find the button and wash your hands.